So guys, let's begin with the class. So again, let's start a class with a positive note. So again, very beautiful lines on your screen. You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. So guys, always have new goals in your life as and when you achieve your previous goal. So set up another time limit, set up another goal, have a new dream because this life is really short. So always have timed goals and also new dreams so you can achieve maximum in this timeline. So guys, with this positive thought, let's begin our lecture. So today we'll talk about state food authorities and what is enforcement and what is the laboratory ecosystem which FSSAI is planning to build and why it is planning to build. We'll talk about all that in detail, and also we'll talk about import third party audit. So these topics are really really important from the examination point of view, and also these are very interesting. And also guys, I would request all of you to please go and watch the FSSAI Act that we have covered on our YouTube channel, because now we'll be talking about a lot of FSSAI Act and all the regulations, acts, all the sections which are provided in that act. So that you can relate to it, because throughout the day I want you guys to just spare like 2 hours and complete the FSSAI Act, because majority of the questions are going to come from FSSAI Act, and already we have covered on our YouTube channel. There is no point covering it again in our classes. So please go and watch the videos from there. And in case you have any doubt from that act, just let me know, right? So guys, first let us talk about the laboratory network. So guys, uh Infolnet. So Infolnet, if you see, Indian Food Laboratory Network. So guys, here FSSAI is trying to build up a network of laboratories. I mean, FSSAI wants to get each and every food testing lab on a single platform. So guys, can you imagine why they want to bring it on single platform? Because when it comes on single platform, efficiency increases, and there is very very less discrepancy. So let's talk about what is Infolnet and why FSSAI want to implement this, and already it has been implemented. So we'll talk about this in detail. So if you see what is Infonet, it is a IT based system for lab management. As I said, all the labs which come under FSSAI or state food testing laboratories. So all these labs would be managed on a single platform. So there would be a single website on which all the details about each and every sample, each and every test that has been conducted, and the result of that test would be available. And all the officials of the FSSAI, for example, food safety officers and commissioner of food safety, then CEO of FSSAI, and food analyst, and even the food business operators. So each and every stakeholder can access those reports very easily and at readily, right? So if you see, it's a IT based lab management. Since the collection of the sample by FSO, as you all know, the major role, one of the major role of the food safety officer is to go on surveillance and collect the sample. So FSS food safety officer would go to the restaurants or to other food manufacturing units. He would carry out the inspection, and he would collect the samples, some food samples, so that he can send it to the lab for checking of adulteration or contamination, or if those samples are not in compliance with the FSSAI Act and regulations, right? So all the samples which are collected by the FSO till test report is generated by the food analyst, and linking of all the major base lab management module with other micro modules like food licensing and registration system, food import clearance system, surveillance and risk system. So guys, if you see, there is something known as lab management system. So FSSAI, it wants to connect all its online portals, for example, licensing and registration system. So this is a system, or it's a website where a food business operator can go and apply for license or registration online. And another, if you see, another portal is food import clearance system. So if any food business operator is importing food articles from foreign countries, so he has to go and register on this portal, and he has to obtain a import export license, and all the clearance system, he can get a real time details whether his samples has been approved or rejected, whether he can import the articles of food from the respective country. So everything happens on food import clearance system. And then surveillance and risk. So each and every portal would be integrated to one unit that is known as lab management system. So efficiency of all the portals increases, right? So now, if you see the next point, all the food labs would be connected. So as I said before, all the food labs, they would be connected to the Infonet either by LMS, that is Lab Information Management System, which is available in the lab, or lab management module in which the LIMS is not available, right? So LMS, if you see, LIMS would be a backbone. So around this backbone, all this platform would be connected so that efficiency can be increased, and the reports can be given to the FBOs faster, so that the business can move faster, right? So if you see, Infonet, it provides an extensive online portal to food laboratories and different stakeholders who are involved in food testing. So guys, as I said, each and everyone would have the access, be it food safety officer, be it designated officer, be it food business operator, or be it food analyst. Each and everyone can access this report and the samples in a real time because it is online. So each and everything would be all the information would be available in real time. So if you come to the next point, so it is a non-stop resource for managing all activities of testing through online interface. So as I said in before as well, so it would be a real-time thing. Each and everyone can access it in a real time. And this network will assist DO, that is designated officer, or AO, authorized officer, to assign samples based on testing facility, geography, location, and workload of the lab. So guys, again, I mean, this would again increase the efficiency, and it would also decrease the timeline of the food testing. Why? Because now, since the data is in real time, so the designated officer and the authorized officer, they would come to know that where to send the samples. For example, if in particular lab the workload is very high, and they know that if you send the samples here, it might take a lot of time, but in that time, if the test results does not come, that food might get spoiled, right, which is lying in the FSSAI warehouse, customs warehouse, right? So in that case, now DO can easily get to know where the samples must be sent, and also it can give the geographical location of the sample. For example, sample is collected in West Bengal. So in West Bengal, for example, in Kolkata, so the sample would be sent around the labs which are near Kolkata, right? So I mean, this would also help in identifying the geographical location of the collection of the sample and the availability and the busyness of those labs in that area, right? So now if you see till date, so till date, if you see 11,500, almost 11.5k samples have been collected through Infonet system, and almost 5,000 samples have been analyzed. And if you see, 6,000 samples have been passed and 82 samples failed. So this is the official data which is available on the Infonet website, right? So now let's talk about a bit about lab management system. So as I said, it would act as a backbone of the network, which will also be integrated to other FSSAI core IT systems. So guys, LMS is gonna be a backbone to which all other FSSAI's websites like food licensing and registration, then food import clearance system, quick access, post tag, we talk about post tag like training system, then surveillance system. So each and everything should would be connected in future. Like already things are being already they are trying to implement it, but it would be very soon when all the system would be integrated, and there would be only one system, that is LMS, lab management system. So again, as I said, it would it's an centralized information which can be used for risk analysis and training and capacity building and all these factors, right? If you see, the major benefits which we can get by integrating all these, so these are the benefits which are envisaged by FSSAI. So according to FSSAI, why they want to implement this is because it would help in uniform parameter testing. So guys, this is very important. For example, in India, there are you can say there are more than thousands of labs, right, food testing labs. But in order to ensure that all these labs are following a single procedure, because in certain labs they might be following different procedures which might give different results. So that is not what FSSAI is looking for. They want that all the testing parameters should be uniform, be it a lab in Kolkata, be it a lab in Odisha, be it a lab in Haryana, be it a lab in Delhi, or be it a lab in anywhere in any Indian state. So if uniform parameters are followed, then there are very high, then there is very less chance that there would be any variance in result. So result would be very, very constant. So that is why they want that everything should be have a uniform parameter testing parameters, right? Then better surveillance also, guys. If everything is online, then also better surveillance. I mean, the CEO who is sitting in the Delhi, he can easily get to know that what is happening in Kolkata, or what is happening in Haryana, or what is happening in Kerala, right? So since it's a real time, he can get to know about all the samples which are being tested, all these samples which got failed, and all those details. And also enriching standards. So this would also help as an FSSI as a team to take real-time actions as well. So this would also help again to further improve the FSSAI Act and the standards, right? Because everything is happening in real time. So I mean, yeah, they can even upgrade their standards. And also MIS reporting, then sample tracing, centralized data. As I said, it would be a centralized data, each and every stakeholder can access it. And sample tracing, it would also help to trace the sample, like where has the sample reached, whether it is still with the FBO, or whether it has reached the food analyst, whether he has conducted the test, and when will I get the report. So each and every step can be traced in a real time, right? So guys, I hope it's clear. Infonet is a very, very important topic, because this is the future of FSSAI. If you see, everything would be integrated with this system. So guys, if you are clear with this, then please give me thumbs up in the comment section. Then we'll talk about food safety audit, again a very, very important topic. And just let me know in the comment section by giving thumbs up if things are clear to you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for confirming. So now let's talk about food safety audit. So again, guys, this is very important topic. Last time a question was asked from this topic, so just pay attention. So now, if we talk about food safety audit, so first of all, let's understand about what is audit in general. So if you see, audit is a process where an authorized auditor visits a facility to assess food safety compliance. So guys, again, audit is nothing but a authorized food auditor would visit the facility of that particular food business operator, and he would assess whether that food business operator is implementing all the guidelines, all the rules, all the regulations which have been provided by FSSAI. And in case he is not adhering to all those regulations or the act, so then food auditor, he can give his audit report to the FSSAI and also to the food business operator, and then FSSAI can accordingly take action, right? So food auditing is very, very important. So guys, this is very, very different from the job of food safety officer, because now food safety officers would purely act as an inspection body. So they would just go and inspect the premises, they would collect the samples, but audit would be regular, because as you know, India is such a huge country. There are millions of restaurants or food business operators in India. So it is very, very difficult for FSSAI or state food authorities to ensure that these food houses are complying with all these safety regulations. So that is why FSSAI want to get third party auditor, private auditor on board, so that these auditors can regularly go and ensure that these food safety compliance are being applied in this food business operator manufacturing unit, right? So during the audit, auditor carries out an inspection of the facility, observes the food handling practices, review food safety documentation, and including the food safety program and monitoring. So these food auditors who would go on this in this FBO units, so they would inspect everything, like they would be scoring everything. So they would score accordingly. For example, they would inspect the facility. You remember in Schedule 4, we have read about sanitary and hygienic requirements. So those are the requirements which these auditors would go and ensure whether these FBOs are implementing those sanitary and hygienic practices in their facilities. So they would inspect and they would also observe the food handling practices. As I mentioned, sanitary and hygiene of the food handler who is coming in direct contact with food, that is also very, very important. And in Schedule 4, FSSAI has clearly given those minor instructions, right? So they would also observe these food handlers and the practices that they are carrying out in this manufacturing unit, and also review the food safety documentation. So if you see, the food safety documentation is nothing but the I mean all the, FSSA has also given which is something known as each and every food business operator, he has to keep record of each and everything. For example, how much raw material is coming into his facility, how much raw material was used by the end of the day, and how much raw material would be used in the following day, and how much product was sold in the market, how much end product was manufactured. So all these documents, right? All these documents, and also the food safety documents which are given by FSA from time to time. So they have to, food business operator have to maintain it regularly, so that during audit, each and everything can be checked by the auditors, right? And in case in audit, if there are any reservations, if the food auditor finds that FBO is not complying, so then accordingly he can give his score and FSSAI can take an action. So guys, if you see FSSAI in their act, FSSAI Act, so they have given a particular definition of the audit. So it's a very, very important definition. So please pay attention, because this can be directly asked in the question paper. So if you see, food safety audit means systematic and functionally independent examination of sanitary and hygienic compliance as per Schedule 4 of the FSSAI Regulation 2011 for food safety measures based on HACCP and other standards, product standard adopted by food business operators to meet the regulatory requirements. So if you see, it's a systematic and functionally independent. So what does these words mean? So if you see, it's a systematic, I mean, there would be a proper system to give scoring to each and every activity which is taking place at the FBO's manufacturing unit. And also, if you see, it's a functionally independent. I mean, these food auditors, they are independent. They have nothing to do with FSSAI. There would be individual, I mean, private companies who would function independently. Just they have to do is they have to report all these details to FSSAI. That's it, right? So this is a functionally independent, and they should carry out the sanitary and hygienic requirement, as I said in the previous point, given in the FSI Schedule 4 of the regulation, right? To determine whether such measures and related result meet the objective of the food safety and claims made in behalf. And also, as I said, they have to measure whether all the these FBOs are taking all the measures, so that uh, safe and healthy food can reach to the consumer, right? So if you see, let's talk about the audit structure. So audit can be classified in three phases. So there are three ways in which audit can be classified. That is first party audit, second party audit, and third party audit. So guys, these are the audit type which are given by FSSAI. So if you see, first type audit, this audit is for self-assessment to internally verify the procedures and management. So also guys, if I know majority of you are working in MNCs, or in certain private sector, so internal audits, they help assessment. So for example, if tomorrow an auditor comes at any issues in your compliance, so they can go and inform FSSAI, and FSSAI would take strict action. So in order to avoid such issues, first of all, they should carry self-assessment. They should periodically audit their units, and if there are any gaps, any loopholes, they should try to fulfill it, right? To internally verify that the procedures and management strategies reflect the requirements of the standard. So they should ensure that all the standards are being followed by all the employees in the company, right? So second party audit, also known as proprietary audits, a primary organization evaluates the performance of the supplier or a contractor. So now guys, as I told, there are bigger food business operators. I mean, for example, Britannia. So Britannia would be dealing with a lot of small suppliers who supply them the raw material, right? For example, wheat or whatever they use majorly in their manufacturing unit. So now they can also act as a secondary party, as a secondary audit party. They can audit their smaller suppliers or the contractors with whom they are working, so that they can ensure that all the raw material which is coming to their factory, that is as per the FSSAI guidelines, and they are safe and hygienic, right? And guys, then there is known as third party audit. So this is independent auditor from outside the organization conduct audit, often for the purpose of certification. So guys, this third party audit is what FSSAI is majorly focusing on, because FSSAI would nominate few, not few, I mean lot of agencies, private agencies, who can go and conduct the audit. And if the audit is successful, if the FBO is complying with all the rules and regulations, then they would be given a particular certificate, right? Certificate would ensure that, yeah, this manufacturing unit always follows the FSSAI rules, regulations, and compliance. So let's talk about a bit about third party audits, why it is conducted, why FSSAI is very hell bent on implementing this system, third party audit. If you see, to strengthen the food safety surveillance system, FSSAI has envisaged audits to the of the FBOs through private auditing agencies. So guys, if you see, FSSAI is involving private agencies. As I said, India is a huge country. Like India has a lot of restaurants, millions of restaurants, and it is not in the capacity of FSSAI or the state food uh, uh, state FDAs to regularly go on inspection and collect samples and ensure safe and wholesome food to the people of India. But now, if these third party private companies, they come on board, they can regularly go and inspect and ensure FBOs are adhering to all the rules and regulations. And in order to cultivate and foster the growth of compliance culture, so definitely, if it's a general mentality, if any audit company comes, so those food business operator, they would like to comply to all the regulations, because they would never want to uh, get these auditors complain about them to FSSAI, right? So this would foster the growth of compliance culture. They would self compliance to all these regulations. So FSSAI is enabling compliance through private auditing agencies, right? Then food safety audit reduces the regulatory food safety inspection. Yes guys, this was the question which was asked by FSSAI in 2019, that what is the benefit of third party audit. So its correct option was it reduces the regulatory food safety inspection conducted by central or state licensing authority. So this was a direct question, direct sentence which was just copy paste from here. So just remember, it would reduce the regulatory food safety inspection. As I said, all the food safety officers or the commissioner of food safety, they need not to go regularly. They can just visit occasionally, and they can collect the samples on regular basis. These third parties would go and audit, right? So next, if you see, further benefits are satisfactory audits will lead to less frequent regulatory inspection. Yeah, again, it's a repetition. It would reduce the frequency of the inspection which is conducted by central FSSAI or state FDAs, right? And also this will strengthen food safety surveillance system and encourage self-compliance. Yeah, as I said, it would it would inculcate a habit of self-compliance in this all food business operator, so that safe food can reach to consumers. So guys, whenever the if you see the word related to audit, so just remember section 44. So because in section 44 is the in the FSSAI Act is what talks about the audit. So section 44 of FSSAI Act 2006 provides the power to the food authority to recognize any organization and agency. So if you see through section 44, FSSAI officials, they have the power to recognize any agency who can act as a private auditor, right? So now guys, I'll also take you through the food safety audit process, because it's very important from examination point of view, because questions were asked previous year. So this can also, you can expect questions from this topic. So if you see, FBO will select the audit agency. So now how audit would take place? So let's talk about this in a brief. So if you see, first of all, FBO can select any audit agency. So now all the auditors, they would come and register themselves on the FSSAI website. So now any FBO can select any auditor of his own choice. So then FBO will book a, for example, if you normally when we take any subscription, so this would be a subscription model. So FBO can directly go and book any agency. He would pay the fee. This agency would come and conduct the audit. It would give the audit report to the FBO, and a copy of audit report would go to the FSSAI. So yeah, I mean, they have the freedom to choose any agency. So if you see, the shortlisted audit agency will collect the information of the FBO. So whenever any FBO they go and select any particular agency, audit agency, then he has to fill all his details, right? His number of production lines he has in his unit, and the production groups, and the training details, and the number of food handlers he has in his unit, then the area of storage, right, and all the information about FBO. So these agency, it will collect all these details of the FBO, and then they would chalk out a plan for this, right? Then FBO will finalize the audit date with the agency and decide upon the audit fee to be paid by the FBO. So guys, if you see here, these FBOs, then after giving all these details, then they can finalize the audit date. On that date, it would come that agency would visit the FSSA, FBO, right? And if you see, there is a audit fee as well. So audit fee is not decided by FSSAI, guys. Please note this point, it is very important. This audit fee is never decided by FSSAI or central food departments. This is decided by between the FBO and the agency. They can agree on any fee, right? So it's not fixed. They can negotiate, both the FBO and the audit agency. They can negotiate and they can decide a fee on their own. So the next step is audit agency fills in the audit intake form in the FSSA audit management system web page. So guys, as I said, all these audit management system and other the units, they would be in future linked to LMS. So now after getting all the details and after receiving the payment, then the audit agency will go and fill a form on the FSSA audit management system web page. So if you see here, the audit agency will log in the FSSA audit portal using the credential that they want to schedule audit, because FSSAI need to know, they should have a track which agency is going for, the type of audit they are conducting. So each and every detail will be available with the FSSAI in real time. And audit detail, auditor detail, man audit day will be mentioned in the audit form. Each detail, audit date, and who all are the auditors who are visiting this unit, and how many days it would take to conduct the audit. And once the form is filled, the information cannot be changed. Yeah, so guys, this is also important, because once they have filled all this information, there is no option for editing this form. So once the form is filled, so I mean, that is fixed. So once filled, the details of the audit schedule are visible to food authority, concerned agency, and FBO. So once all these details are filled, it is available, it is visible to all the three stakeholders, that is food authority, FSSAI or state FDAs, and the agency who is going to conduct the audit, and definitely the food business operator where the FBO, where the audit would be conducted, right? So third point, the agency will communicate the audit plan to FBO at least 8 days in advance. So this agency need to inform them in 8 days in advance. So guys, remember this date, 8 days, because such type of questions are asked in the exam, right? So 8 days before, they need to inform the FBO that, yeah, we are coming for the audit, so be prepared. So the third point, if you see, FBO will get their business audited as per the plan. So if you see, the audit agency will execute the audit as per the inspection checklist. So guys, there is a proper inspection checklist. If you go to schedule 4, there is an inspection checklist given in that schedule 4. So that same inspection checklist is given to these auditors. They would just go and fill this checklist. They would just ensure that whether they are complying or not, whether they can either check it or they can cross mark it, right? So it would be a checklist. So according to that checklist, they would submit a report. Audit reports had been submitted before leaving the FBO facility. So they would submit a audit score and the audit report to the FBO, and all the findings shall be agreed by the FBO. The FBO can represent to the food authority in case of disagreement. Yes. So before leaving, the auditor has to give him the report. So in case of major non-conformity, the food authority will be informed through web portal within 24 hours. Information about the same should reach the director, that is Central Licensing Authority, Commissioner of Food Safety of the state and unit UT. So guys, this is very, very important. If they find major non-conformity, I mean, if that food business operator, he is not complying with the all the, I mean, major rules and regulations which were very, very mandatory for him to comply with. But now, if they find a major non-conformity, if that auditor finds a major non-conformity, he has to within 24 hours inform via email or phone to all the directors of the Central Food Safety Authority, so that appropriate action can be taken against that individual, so that the unhealthy food reach to the consumers, right? So if you see, in case of minor non-conformities, so in previous slide we read about major. So in major non-conformities, they have to inform in 24 hours. But if there are only minor non-conformities, right? So the audit agency will close the finding within 15 days, including its ratification and follow-up. So now the food audit agency will give them time of 15 days. So after 15 days, they would visit again to ensure, they would rectify it, whether they have followed it or not. Once they have followed it, then it would give them the proper report. Yes. So now these FBO is complying with all the regulations, and now there are no conformities, right? So FBO has to close the finding and take the corrective action. As I said, within this 15 days of period, so he has to take all the corrective actions to fill that loopholes and gaps. And in case of delay, concerned central or state licensing authority shall be intimated by the agency. So agency has to be in constant contact with the FSSAI. So if you see, the final audit report shall be uploaded on FSSA audit management web page within 15 days from the date of audit. So guys, remember these dates, means 10 days or 15 days or wherever it is 8 days, because these are very, very specific. These are deadlines which need to be adhered, right? So now if you see, the final report must be uploaded on the FSSA audit management system within 15 days of the audit, right? So now guys, if you see, mandatory versus voluntary audit and its frequency. So now you would imagine whether this audit is mandatory or it's voluntary. So if you see, in some cases it's mandatory and in some cases it is voluntary. And also we'll talk about the frequency. When should these FBOs visit, when these food auditors must visit those FBOs, whether it should be once in a year or 6 months or in 3 months. So we'll also talk about the frequency, right? So if you see, the food authority shall from time to time specify the category or the type of food business which shall be subject to mandatory food safety audit, primarily based on risk classification. So guys, I mean, this is a self-explanatory point, because if you see, if the risk associated with the food is high, for example, high risk food, I have been telling it from day one, that milk and meat, all these food, seafood, these are high risk food. So, for all these high risk food, the audit is mandatory, and audit frequency is very, very high. And if you talk about the normal foods like vegetables, fruits, these does not fall in the category of high risk, so their frequency of the audit is also very, very low. So the classification of the food business shall be done after the consideration of major factors like food type. As I said, food type: is it a milk food, is it a meat, or is it a seafood, or is it a fruit, vegetables, right? So intended customer use, so how much customers are using it. If the large number of customers are consuming that food, then again it becomes very, very primary activity to ensure that the mandatory audit has been conducted. And also the nature of the activity of the business and the volume of the business. Yes, for example, Maggie is being sold at on a high scale, right, throughout the country. So in case of Maggie, the regular inspection is very, very much needed, right? And also method of processing or any other factor that food authority may specify in this behalf, right? So now let's talk about the audit frequency. So guys, here I have given only the frequency of four major products, and I mean, I have simplified it. For example, if you see dairy products, for dairy products, if the audit score, for example, the audit company goes for an audit in a dairy industry, and if their score, I told you that they have a checklist, and if in that checklist, if the food business operator gets score between 81 to 100 points, then the inspection should be conducted only once in a 12 month, that is once in a year. But if their score is between 51 to 80, I mean almost half, then once in 9 months. But if their score is less than 50, I mean there are serious non-compliance if the score is less than 90, and this is high risk food, guys. Just make this point: in high risk food, if the score of compliance audit score is less than 50, then once in 6 months audit is mandatory, right? It means twice in a year. So 2 times in a year this audit company must go and conduct the audit, and they should ensure that they are following all the regulatory requirements. And also, if you see meat and meat products, again this is high risk food. So if you see the score is same, and time period is also same as the dairy products. So if you see, these both charts are same because these are high risk food. So now this is the trick how you can remember, because there are a lot of foods which are given in the act. So now you can just group them. For example, high risk food, if the score is this, then this is the frequency. Now let's come to the normal foods like fruits and vegetables, right? So if you see, for them, the inspection audit frequency is very, very high. Just within once in 18 months, if their score is between 81 to 100. If their score is 51 to 80, then just once in a year. But if score is less than 50, then it has to be once in 6 months, like twice in a year. So for example, same in confectionery. So in confectionery also, if you see, it is similar to the fruits and vegetables, right? So just make the groups, so that even if FSSAI asks you anything about from any food, and also if you don't have any idea, just separate it from whether it is high risk food or no, right? So if it's high risk food, so remember this. If it is not high risk food, so remember these, right? So yeah, I hope, guys, things are clear. Just give me thumbs up if things are clear, then we'll take next topic, that is enforcement. Just confirm, guys, if things are clear. Okay, thank you, guys, thank you for confirming. So now we'll talk about enforcement. So enforcement is also again a very, very important topic, because this is one of the major role, if you can say, apart from providing safe and healthy food to the consumer. Enforcement, because FSSAI is making all these laws, rules, regulations, and standards, so that these can be enforced on this food business operator. So now, for enforcing all these laws, they have a particular mechanism. They have a particular mechanism, if you see here. So enforcement structure and the functional framework. So guys, for enforcement, if you just remember this chart, and if you are thorough with FSSAI Act 2006, then you can attempt any question if at all asked from enforcement. So guys, if you see, as I said, so there are two type of food authorities, right? First is at central level, that is FSSAI. Then there is another body, that is FDA, that is Food and Drug Administration, that works at state level. So in central FSSAI, there is someone known as Chief Executive Officer. So guys, please comment and let me know who is present CEO of FSSAI. Very, very important topic, very, very important question. So please comment below and let me know who is CEO of FSSAI currently. I want to know this answer right now. Please comment in the section below, guys. Who is the CEO of FSSAI? Yes, correct. Guys, Arun Singhal is the CEO. Rita Tioshia, she is not the CEO. She is the chairperson of the FSSAI. Rita Tioshia is the chairperson and Arun Singhal is the CEO. There is a huge difference, right? So current CEO of FSSAI is Arun Singhal and Rita Tioshia is chairperson, not the CEO. So make this a point, right? So if you see through FSSAI regional offices, so how enforcement is conducted. So if you see central licensing authority, for example, DEO. So guys, if you talk about FSSAI, the person who issues license is known as designated officer. He is also known as central designated officer or central licensing authority. So this is the individual who is responsible for issuing the license. and then comes the food safety officer. So this is the hierarchy, basically how enforcement is carried out. So on top is the CEO of FSSAI, then below CEO is the designated officer, and below him is the food safety officer. So at the state level, if you see, the enforcement structure is state food safety commissioner. So instead of CEO in state FDAs, there is a state food safety commissioner. Just remember this, guys, important again. Then at state level there is a designated officer, then state food safety officers. So guys, now again, a very important thing I would like to tell you, apart from FSSAI, there are state bodies which also recruit state food safety officers. So whichever state you belong to, be it Haryana or be it West Bengal or be it your Kerala, right now I think Tamil Nadu is also conducting state food safety officer exam, and majority of the candidates who are from Tamil Nadu, they have applied for that. So similarly, in your respective state also, a state FDA would conduct the exam. So make sure you fill the forms timely, right? And whenever they conduct the exam, you have to just go and check the Google like once in a while, so you can get to know. So yeah, I mean, if you see the hierarchy, so this is just the major difference. And for their specific functions, what is the function of CEO, what is the function of state food say commissioner, DO, FSO, you can visit my YouTube channel and you can watch the FSSAI Act. I have completely covered in detail their functions. So this is the enforcement mechanism, right? So basically, what do you understand by enforcement? Enforcement is nothing but how, food safety officer will go on a field, what are his duties, what are his functions, what are the functions of the DO, what are the function of this. So these are basically the enforcement. So if you see, state food safety officer or the central food safety officers, he submits the sample. So their function majorly, if you see, the food safety officer's major function is to go on inspection and collect the samples. He would collect the samples and submit it to the food analyst. So you might have seen in the notification, there is also vacancy for food analyst, right? So now food safety officer will go and submit the sample for food analyst. Then food analyst would conduct the analysis and submit the report to the designated officer or the state food safety officer, which is whichever is applicable. So if there is a major non-compliance, if there is a major non-compliance and for which prosecution is to be conducted, for which punishment of more than 3 years is to be given, then the case goes to CEO of FSSAI. CEO is here, right? So the case goes to CEO. If there is not major non-conformity, then the case goes to adjudicating officer. So please go and watch my FSSAI videos, FSSAI Act videos. I have covered each and everything in detail and their functions individually, right? So this is what is the how the enforcement happens, and this is the hierarchy, right? So now, guys, let's talk about state food authority. So if you see here, this is the mechanism. I mean, this is the structure of state food authority. So now we'll talk in detail how they function and what are their major responsibilities. So the enforcement of the act in the state is carried out by state commissioner of food safety and DO and the food safety officer, food analyst. So as I showed you in the previous slide, so this is the at state level, these are the officers who are involved. Sorry. These are the officers who are involved in ensuring that all the food business operator in their state is adhering or is following all the regulations and rules and all the compliance which are given by FSSAI. Right, and I'll give you a brief about Commissioner of Food Safety here. So as per section 30, state government appoints the Commissioner of Food Safety. So guys, here appointment also varies. So if you go and watch my video, you would see Commissioner of Food Safety is appointed by another body, then designated officer is appointed by commissioner, then food safety officer is also appointed by commissioner through examination, right? So similarly, state government appoints the Commissioner of Food Safety at state level, and he should not be below the rank of commissioner or secretary of the state government for efficient implementation. So his just remember this designation, again an important point from the examination point. So if you see the state commissioner of food safety, his rank should not be less than commissioner or the secretary of the state. So majorly he must be an IAS officer, right? So then coming to next point, the CEO of FSSAI under section 10 of the act also exercise the powers of the Commissioner of Food Safety while dealing with the matters relating to food safety. So guys, even the CEO of FSSAI, he has powers of all the powers which the Commissioner of Food Safety has when the matters are relating to food safety, right? So he can, so now let's talk about the powers of the Commissioner of Food Safety. So guys, I'll talk about only the powers of the Commissioner of Food Safety here. So he can prohibit in public interest the manufacture, storage, distribution, or sale of any article of food in the whole state for maximum of 1 year. So guys, again, a very lot of information is given only in this single point. So if you see, he can prohibit the manufacture or storage or distribution or selling of any article of food for in a state for a maximum period of 1 year. So can you imagine such a huge power he has? 1 year is a huge time, right? Business can fail in 1 year, right? So if he takes strict action, then you can imagine complete business can fail. So this is the power of the Commissioner of Food Safety. He can completely prohibit the sale or the distribution for 1 year. So he can carry out survey of the food industrial units in state for the compliance. So even the Commissioner of Food Safety, even they go for surveillance to the big units so that they can ensure that all the FBOs are complying with the regulations, and they can conduct an organized training program, as I said. And also we read in our yesterday's slide FOSTEC. So when we talk about FOSTEC we read about various stakeholders, right? So now try to relate it here. And stakeholders, when we read about stakeholders, so State Department, uh, they were responsible for organizing or conducting the training. So now it's the duty of the Commissioner of Food Safety to organize such training, right? And also ensure an efficient and uniform implementation of the standards and other requirements as specified, a high standard objectivity, accountability. So yeah, I mean, again, he has to ensure that all the regulations are implemented in an efficient and uniform manner, and also sanction prosecution for offenses punishable with an imprisonment, and also perform such functions as prescribed by state government. As I said, guys, if there is a prosecution, if that person has to be put in jail, for example, if the FBO conducts a serious any serious non-conformity, right? If serious non-conformity is found, and for which the punishment given by FSSAI or the punishment prescribed by FSSAI is more than 3 years, then the Commission of Food Safety has the power to put that person in jail, right? So can you imagine such a big powers they have, right? So, guys, that was all about the state food bodies, state FDAs. I mean, you need not to go in detail. Just in the act, just remember their powers. That's it. You need not to go in detail because FSSI is not going to ask you in detail. Just remember their functions and powers, right? I hope it's clear, guys. So now we'll talk about food import. Again, a very important topic. So in food import, so guys, if you see again, FSSAI is mandate to regulate import of the goods in country and ensure it is safe and wholesome. So guys, for example, similarly, as you know, FSSAI has put regulations for all the food which is manufactured in the boundary of India, right? So similarly, if any food is imported from any country, so FSSAI has certain guidelines, certain regulation for those as well, so that it can fulfill its ultimate goal, that is to ensure safe and wholesome food for human consumption, right? So if you see, and whenever food import, whenever this term, if you see this term food import, so immediately section 25 of FSSAI Act should come in your mind, because this action purely deals with the foods which are imported in India. So section 45 of the FSSAI Act, it gives all the imports of article of foods are subject to provisions of this act. So all the regulations, all the rules, all the provisions which are given the FSSAI Act, all the food which comes into India, they have to comply with all these provisions, right? It stipulates that no person shall import into India an article of food which is in contravention of the act rules and regulations made thereunder. So guys, remember this point, because last time a direct copy paste statement was done from here by FSSAI. So the question was, no person shall import into India any article of food, and then options were given. So the correct option was any food which is in contravention of this act rules and regulations made thereunder. So guys, read the act very carefully, because directly copy paste questions would come from that part, right? So yeah, let's move to next slide. So if you see, now let's talk about the now apart from the section 25 in the FSSAI Act, FSI also given certain regulations. So although we'll talk about these regulations in detail when we come to that topic, but yeah, I mean, I would like to take you through key highlights, because since we are doing this topic, so I thought I'll just give you brief about it. So key highlights of these regulations are: no import of food article are permitted into India without valid import license from the Central Licensing Authority. So guys, if any food business operator, if he wants to import any article of food into India, so he has to obtain central license, not the state license. He must go to the FSSAI and obtain license from the central licensing authority and not the state licensing authority. So just remember this. This can also be asked in examination. So if you see, the consignment of the food articles are referred to FSSAI for clearance by the custom authorities through food import clearance system. So now guys, you might be knowing, right, whenever any be it any article, be it your food or be it your mobile phones, whenever it come into the boundary of India, there is a custom department, right? It has to get the clarity of custom department. So similarly, any food article which comes to India, it passes through the custom department, and if that food falls in the food category, so these custom departments forward that query or forward that form to the food import clearance system of FSSAI. So the third point is, the food consignment are subject to scrutiny of the document. So now when it is added to the food import clearance system, the food FSSAI, its officers, they would go and conduct the scrutiny of the documentation. They would also go for visual inspection, and also they would collect the samples, and testing should be done to determine whether they conform to all the rules and regulations. And also the small amount of this is not relevant. So food authority may review the risk associated with the article of food import from time to time and adopt a risk based framework and risk based inspection process. Yeah, I mean, food authority, it can keep reviewing all the risks which are associated with the food, and they can keep updating their regulations. And also guys, if you see, no objection certificate is very, very mandatory. Any article of food which comes into India, before it is sold into the market, it should obtain no objection certificate from FSSAI. As I said in the previous slide, right? All the authorized carry out the inspection. He would go and he would inspect all the documents, he would collect the samples, he would wait for the reports, and after, if the report of the food analyst ensures that this product is in compliance, then only no objection certificate would be issued. Only and when the no objection certificate is issued, then only this product can be sold in. But now FSSAI is also given a provision of provisional non-certificate. So for example, any food consignment which is waiting for the food analysis report, but that food article is very, very delicate. For example, milk items, right? Milk items, they need a proper cold environment, cold temperature, right? If they are not kept in that cold temperature, they might get destroyed, right? So now if these foods are not given proper, if that custom house, it does not have those cold storage conditions, then provisional non-certificate would be given. And now a food business operator, they can collect their food from the customs office, and they can keep in their own warehouse in their proper facilities, but they cannot sell it until and unless they receive the provisional objection certificate, right? I hope this point is clear. Provisional certificate is only issued if the foods are risky food, for example milk products or the foods which require cold temperature. And if that cold temperature with the custom house, customs can allow that person to bring his food samples to his own warehouse, but they cannot sell it until and unless they obtain the NOC. So guys, now again, very, very important, this would be definitely asked in exam. So if you see NOC exemption, as I said, each and every food that lands into India, for that FSSAI's NOC, no objection, is very, very important. But if you see, there are certain conditions where this NOC is not mandatory. First point, if you see, article of food imported for personal consumption. So even you guys would have imagined, whenever you come, if you have gone to any foreign country and when you come to India, so you need not to obtain any NOC if you are carrying any article of food from foreign, right? So if any article of food is imported for personal consumption, because you are carrying it for personal consumption, you did not get it for selling into the market, right? So if you are bringing it for personal consumption, then you need not to apply for NOC exemption. Then second point, imported food consignment meant for display purpose in trade and exhibition. So you might be knowing, like, there are a lot of food exhibitions, trade shows. So if few samples are bought from the foreign to just for display purpose, not for selling, just for display in the trade fairs and exhibition, that also need not to obtain NOC. And imported food consignment meant for research and development. So a lot of research PhD guys, they also import article of food from foreign for research purpose. So even they need not to obtain the NOC. Then comes the imported food consignment meant for sports events. So guys, India, India conducts a lot of sports events. For example, Commonwealth Games were conducted here, and even in future we would also be conducting Olympics, and each and every state, they conduct sports events. So a lot of foreign participants also come. So they also get along with them their own food items. So even they need not to obtain this NOC, because they are bringing it for personal consumption, right? And also, if you see last point, imported food consignment meant for 100% export. So for example, you are bringing that item into India for purpose of export only. For example, you are buying it from US and you are selling it in Sri Lanka. So you are not selling it in India, right? So in that case also, you are bringing it into India, but directly from the airport only, you are sending it to Sri Lanka. So in that case also, you need not to apply for the NOC, right? Okay, so if you see, now let's talk about the import clearance system. So this is also very, very important. So import clearance system, how does it happen? So guys, this topic might seem boring, but I mean, it's actually, if you, in real sense, it's very, very interesting, and questions would be asked from here, right? So now let's talk about food import clearance system, how it works. So if you see the first point, FSSAI has its presence in 6 locations. So FSSAI, and also guys, just remember, these are the locations where food safety officers would get posted. So Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, Delhi, Cochin, Tuticorin. So these are the 6 places where whenever, if you get selected, all the food safety officers or the technical officers, so you would be appointed or you would be posted in one of these 6 locations only, nowhere else in India. So I mean, these are the prime locations, right? You can imagine, I mean, you are going to have a good life. Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, Delhi, Cochin, Tuticorin. So only in these states you guys would be appointed if you get selected as a food safety officer or technical officer. So now if you see, so all the major ports, there's a port in Chennai, Kolkata, Mumbai, Delhi, Cochin, so and other, covering other 22 entry points. So at all these locations, FSSAI has their own office, and further at the point of entries throughout the country, FSSAI has notified custom officials. So in these places, FSSAI has appointed their own officers. But apart from these places, they have provided this duty to the custom officials only, to ensure that all the food passes through food import clearance system. So now if we talk about the next slide, so if you see, FSSAI has in place 2 food import clearance system, which is in online system. So it is integrated with customs IC gate, and under Swift, that is single window interface. So you can just remember these words, because exam question can be asked. Food import clearance system, this is FSSAI website. It is integrated with ICE gate. ICE gate is Indian Custom Electronic Data Interchange Gateway. So just remember the full form of this gateway. They can ask you with what FICS is integrated. So it is integrated with ICE gate under the Swift. Swift is nothing but single window interface for facilitating trade. So now all these portals are integrated, and the reason for the integration is fast clearance, because FSSAI does not want the FBO to wait for longer, because food can get destroyed, right, easily. So they want that fast clearance should be given, and fast clearance can only be given if all these portals are integrated and FSSAI and customs are working in integration. So guys, if you see, this is the process how you can obtain the NOC, how any food business operator can obtain the NOC. So whenever any article of food lands into India, then there is a bill, copy of bill, which comes in with that that consignment, right? So now that bill has to be registered with the customs first, that is ice gate. So when this bill is registered with the ice gate, then if you see, if food item is referred to, yeah, now whenever any bills come to the ice gate, so ice gate has a proper function. So if it finds that this is a food item, so now custom will not deal with it, because this has to be, since it's a food item, this must be referred to the food import clearance system of FSSAI for NOC. So now custom would not touch that consignment. FSSAI officials would come and they would take it from take it ahead from here. So step would be, second step is application filed in the FICS. So now the food business operator, he has also to file an application with the FICS informing FSSAI that my consignment has arrived, so please issue me a NOC certificate. So now if you see, there would be a scrutiny would be conducted. After scrutiny, if it is out of scope, I mean, for example, there can be a mistake, right? By mistake, that article of food or that bill by mistake has come to FSSAI, but that article of food is not food. That is some mobile phone, but the bill was wrongly filed by IceGate and it came to FSSAI. So this is out of their scope, because FSSAI is never involved in clearing the mobile phones. They are only involved in clearing the food, right? So sometimes some cases of such sort can happen, then it is out of scope. Otherwise, if that is in their purview, then the food business operator need to pay certain amount, right? And also there is something known as rejected. If the FSSAI on scrutiny finds that this food is not at all fit for human consumption or to be sold in the market, it is completely rejected. If it is passed by the authorized officer, then food business operator has to pay a certain fee. That fee is basically paid for visual inspection, then testing, then collecting the samples and scrutiny of the documents. So after the payment, then a particular officer would be appointed, authorized officer, he is known as authorized officer. He would go and conduct the visual inspection. He would ensure that all the labeling requirements are proper, all the details which are to be provided as per the FSSAI Act, those are printed on the food which is imported in India, right? So he would carry out the visual inspection. And if you see, there are three arrows going on here, right? If there is a discrepancy found, then NOC won't be given, then non-compliance certificate is generated. This is non-compliance. So if there is any discrepancy, he would give them a non-compliance certificate. So again, after finding if there is a non-compliance, so this food business operator, he has to ensure that he fills all that gap which this authorized officer has found. So after he fills all those gaps, then again this authorized officer would come for inspection and he would see if the results are proper. Then he would collect the samples to forward to the lab. And also, if you see, there is a rectifiable discrepancy, he sent back to importer to the custom house and fill missed out details and resend for verification. I mean, again, if there is any discrepancy in documentation, if any discrepancy in labeling, so again it would send it to the importer, and importer has to verify, or importer has to rectify, and again it comes to the officer for visual inspection. So once if he is satisfied with all the regulations being followed by the FBO, then he will collect few samples of that food and further he will forward it to the lab for testing. So if you see, then the samples would be tested. So if that result is passed, then NOC would be issued and release order is generated by the food import clearance system. So this is the basic result. But if the test result fails, then just a second. If the test result fails, then non-compliance is issued. Then FBO can appeal for retesting. He can also apply for retesting so that authorized officer can again collect these samples and he can send to the referral lab for testing. And if that sample then passes, then he can obtain the NOC and the samples would be released, and the product would be released for selling into the market, right? So it's clear. You can just go through our notes, because in notes we have given step by step. So if you, since you have already seen my video, now just go and read it through the notes, so things would be very, very clear. So in case you have any doubt, just WhatsApp me. I am always available on this number, right? So guys, thank you so much. Thank you for paying attention. So we'll meet tomorrow, not tomorrow, but day after tomorrow on Monday. So we'll cover some another topic, and soon, I mean, we are moving ahead towards the finishing of the syllabus. So I'll make sure we finish the syllabus at the earliest, so you guys can revise it thoroughly, means twice or thrice, right? So guys, thank you so much. We'll see you on Monday. Take care. Good night. Enjoy your Sunday, and also please keep revising. Right? Bye guys. Take care.